Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I am your host, Lonnie Jones. My wife Jackie and I moved to the city of Huntsville in 1986 for me to be a youth and family minister. I have been a minister since 1980. I have served in this community as a police chaplain assigned to a SWAT team since 1992, and I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor since 1998. I'm also an adventure educator and an avid outdoorsman. I dabble in rock climbing and I goof around with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our life has been full of many wonderful experiences and some just outright adventures. I used to write about those things in a little church bulletin article. So now instead of asking you to read those things, we're just going to talk about them in our podcast. And as we talk about them, we're going to talk about the facts. The facts lead to concepts, and the concepts lead to application. One caveat about the facts is, for the most part, we're going to tell you the facts just as they happened. But every now and then, we're going to tell you the way other people have told us they remember it happening with a little bit of embellishment. It's all good, clean fun and for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy Keeping Up with Jones. Faulkner University announces a 60% tuition discount for members of the Church of Christ. Now, there are some guidelines. This 60% tuition reduction is applicable to adult undergraduate Bible degrees or graduate Bible degrees from the Curley Graduate School of Theology in the VP Black College of Biblical Studies. You must satisfy all admission requirements and maintain satisfactory academic progress. You must remain continuously enrolled, including summers, until the completion of the degree. You must provide a letter from an elder or minister, preferably on church letterhead, verifying that you're an active member of a Church of Christ congregation prior to your initial enrollment. This offer applies to adult undergraduate degrees such as biblical studies, youth and family ministry tracks, and it also includes graduate degrees. And those are the Master of Arts in Biblical Studies, the Master of Arts in Family Life Ministry, or a Master of Theology, and it also applies to the PhD in Biblical Studies. For undergraduate inquiries, please contact Adult Enrollment, 334-386-7140, 334-386-7140, or Adult Enrollment at Faulkner edu. That is Adult Enrollment at faulkner.edu. For graduate inquiries, please call 334-386-7539, 334-386-7539. Graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. That is graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. My dad just turned 88, and I missed his birthday. I had a lot going on. I was responding to some crisis. It's inexcusable. I, I didn't call him on his birthday. Now, of course, I called him afterward, and he said it was okay. And he'd say it was okay even if it wasn't. That's just the way he is. Normally on his birthday, we go fishing together. But this is the second year in a row we have not been able to do it. Last year he was just didn't feel like going. His back hurt and he couldn't get out of the house. And this year he had surgery on his eyes. His eyes have really begun to bother him. They've got something wrong with his tear ducts, and they either run all the time or they stay dry. And just the air blowing in his face really, really irritates and stings him. Last year was also the first year we didn't hunt together, not a single time. He didn't go last year because he said it was just too cold. He's had trouble staying warm. He needs a little extra time to find the deer in the scope. If the deer will come out and pause a little bit, Dad can find him in the scope. Now, once he finds him in the scope, it's back strap on the ground. It's a dead deer, but he just needs that little bit of time with his eyes to get in that scope. And he has some mobility issues. Several of my friends allow us to use their properties to hunt, and because he can't walk on the rugged terrain up on Kill Mountain like he used to. I can't take him up and down those hills anymore. And so I have to have a place where I can take him and basically walk across flat ground or just drive him to the stand. The last time he and I hunted on Taylor Stegall's lease, Taylor said we could use this shooting house in the middle of a field. And so I drove my little truck all the way down to the shooting house. It was an elevated platform, closed in on all sides with a ladder going up the back. We got out, and Dad said, well, I'll just go right. No, Dad, you don't need to climb that ladder. I want you to sit on the ground. I'll put a blind around you with a shooting rail, and we'll use the top of the shooting house for cover, keep the rain and the wind off of us, and then you'll have a place to hide behind with a rail to shoot off of. So I set him up, left him there. I drove my truck out. Then I start walking back in through the tree line, trying to get a glimpse of, are there any deer out there? And I don't want to spook them. And so I really wasn't looking for my dad. I was looking for the deer. But when I got within about 50 feet of the blind, I couldn't see him. And so I changed my angle a little bit, and there he was lying on the ground. Well, I ran up to him and he just kind of laughed. He said, well, I got too far forward and I just slid off the chair. And he was wearing so many layers of warm clothes, he couldn't bend his legs to get up. I was explaining this situation to another friend of mine, a guy named Bruce Jensen. We call him Bruce on the Loose. And he said, I've got some flat ground you could take your dad to. I've got this plowed field that's surrounded by woods, and it'd be an easy walk for you and your dad to get in. And so I took him over there. Jason Brightwell, who had hunted the property before, met us over there. And I know I've told this story before, but, Jason's going to walk in with us. And looking back on it, I realized that here's this young, fit, ultra marathoner walking through the woods with a 60-year-old and an octogenarian. He probably felt like he was in the woods with Gus and Woodrow from Lonesome Dove. What an easy walk for one person is a relative idea for another person. Both Jason and Bruce neglected to tell us that on this easy walk to this little place that we were going to hunt, we had to cross a small creek. So here we go, balancing my dad, managing his rifle and his hunting pack, this thing that he carries that I call his possibles bag. I don't know what all is in it. I know there's hard candy. I know there's a judge pistol. I know there's a hunting knife. I know there's a thermos full of whatever it is that coffee or tea or whatever he wants to drink. Anyway, we carry this big pack in like we're going to stay for 2 or 3 days. We're only going to stay a couple of hours. Well, we get across this little creek. Jason gets us into the blind, and then he leaves us. And then I realize I'm in here by myself with my dad. If we kill a deer, it will be after dark before we leave. If we kill a deer, I'm going to have to get my dad and a deer out across this creek in the dark. And I began to debate whether or not I wanted us to really be successful or not. Well, it turns out we didn't have to decide because the deer didn't cooperate. We saw a few, but they didn't come into the shooting lane that Dad could use. Darkness fell and the moon rose. I packed my dad up and we start to walk out again. Well, it took me a little bit in the dark to find the exact spot we'd come out of the woods. Well, I finally found the place I wanted, and we walk into this little trail to the exact spot where we'd crossed the creek coming in. And my dad just points to a different spot and says, I think I'd do better down there. Now, I'm not sure what made one place to cross more appealing than another place to cross, but guess what? I don't argue with my dad. In fact, if my dad has an opinion, it's usually a pretty important opinion because my dad's not very opinionated. I think for the last 66 years of their marriage, Dad has said, well, whatever your mother wants. And he's not one of those guys who micro stuffs. He really doesn't care. He just do whatever Mom wants to do. He's the most gentle and humble soul you'll ever meet. So if he has an opinion about where he'd like to cross a creek, I am not going to dissuade or persuade him to do anything differently. So we go to the crossing he chose. Well, I carried his rifle across and laid my rifle beside it. I took his survival bag across, and then I went back for him. Well, I grabbed his belt buckle with my left hand. I ran my right hand up under his jacket and caught him by the collar of the shirt. And off the creek bank we waded. I'm trying to use moonlight to navigate, and I'm standing in this creek balancing myself in this little running current and on these slick rocks, and I'm trying to balance myself and my dad. And then we paused for a minute because Dad had a little slip, and and I let him recover. And I just asked him, we're standing out there in this creek under the moonlight, in the water, and I said, Dad, when is the last time you crossed a creek? And he looked at me like I'd lost my mind and said, well, when we come in here. Yes, yes, sir. That is correct. We did indeed cross this same creek when we came in here. Now, Dad's never deer hunted without me or my brother. He small game hunted as a kid. He hunted squirrels and rabbits and quail, but he didn't take up deer hunting until we did, and we didn't start until we were adults. So the only time he's ever goes deer hunting, he goes with one of us. Fishing, however, would be a different matter. My dad had access to some friends who had lakes. They have friends who had lake house properties. There's a public fishing lake at Oxford Lake. The county owns a lake. It's kind of like our lake around here, Madison County Public Fishing Lake. It's the lake in Delta, Alabama. And so Dad could go there. And he'd go out by himself, and he'd spend a couple hours, and he'd catch some bass or some brim or some catfish. But at 88, he doesn't fish by himself anymore. You see, the last time he went fishing by himself, he was behind the Walmart in Oxford at that little pond they set up as like a wetland. And he was bending over on the bank. I guess he was squatted down, and he bent over to do something with one of his lines, and he got top heavy, and he flipped head first into this small lake. Now, he didn't panic, and he kept his composure. He got his feet under him. He said it was only about chest deep, and he walks up the sloping bank and got out of the water, and then he lost his balance again and fell in backwards. And so he made the decision, hey, I don't let myself go by myself anymore. It's not that he can't go, and it's not that he doesn't have places to go, but he's made a decision that it is not wise to go alone. There are lots of things that we can do. There are lots of places that we are allowed or able to go. But one of the marks of age, wisdom, and maturity is making decisions that are hard, unpleasant, limited, inconvenient, restrictive, and deciding it is not wise or it is not safe, and making the decision not to go or do. There are instances when not being able to self-regulate, to delay your gratification and control your impulses. There's some instances where people have to have those choices made for them. And when somebody else has to tell you what you can or can't do, that may be a sign of immaturity or lack of awareness. I know as Jackie's dad began to age and got into his middle 70s, we had to disable his truck. He didn't have the wherewithal to decide, hey, it might not be a good idea for me to get in my truck and drive. And that's a sign of aging and poor cognition. Well, if I'm always making poor choices and I can't say no to things because I can't recognize that they are unwise or unsafe, and other people have to restrict me, then that's a problem. There may be an inherent problem there. But on the other side of that coin is I may have my full capacity, I may have my full capabilities, and other people may be influencing my decisions. And a sign of maturity is that I'm humble enough and mature enough to listen to others when they tell us, hey, this might not be a good idea for you. This may be something you shouldn't do. It would be best not to. Maybe you should think about this before. And you see, if we say, well, you know what, I'm 55 years old, I'm 60 years old, I'm 32 years old, I'm this age and you can't tell me what to do. If we never take guidance or wisdom from other people, then our chronological age and our wisdom apparently do not match. Very rarely do people fall into trouble because they just flat out decided today I'm going to do the wrong thing. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but that's a rare instance. We don't fall into trouble and get hurt because we're being daredevils or reckless. Instead, we fall into trouble when instead of choosing between right and wrong, we make the wrong choice between smart and not smart. Just because we can do something, have permission or the ability, doesn't mean we should. And just because it can be done doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Years ago, and I mean years ago, before I was born, and I'm 62, years ago, my dad decided not to drink. Not, I'm not going to get drunk, but I'm not going to drink, period. He decided not to curse or swear. He decided to always tell the truth. He decided not to be controlled by his temper. He decided to be less wealthy rather than to be dishonest. He decided to be humble instead of trying to prove he was always right. He decided to choose what was right regardless of how it made him look or what it cost him. He decided to put his wife's needs above his rights. He decided to choose family over work. And he chose God over everything else. Now, once you've lived 80 plus years with those kind of decisions already been made, it's probably not a big step to realize, you know what, I probably shouldn't go fishing by myself. See, he's already made the moral and spiritual, smart, safe choices. It's not just enough to realize or admit you shouldn't go by yourself. The real wisdom and the real maturity comes when not only do you realize you shouldn't go, but you tell yourself you won't go. And you won't go by yourself anymore. It's not that you can't, but you have the maturity to choose not to go. Ability is not the same as permission, and permission is not the same as ability. My dad has made a series of choices that to an onlooker might look like it limits his freedom. But in exercising those freedoms, making those different choices all the way up to, hey, I'm going to go fishing by myself, could have very serious consequences. And if he goes by himself and it gets in over his head, it'll be life-changing. And Dad's not being paranoid. He's not scared, but neither is he reckless. And he's not acting out of irrational fear. He's acting out of wisdom and maturity and safety. This is the same kind of choices he's demonstrated all his life when he decided to become a Christian. Having the right to do something doesn't mean it's smart. Having the right to do something doesn't mean it's safe, and having the right to do something doesn't mean it's right. And right is not always about what you do, but sometimes in choosing where not to go, what not to say, and what not to do. I encountered a lot of situations in my counseling office. And when people sit down and they describe what's going on with their family or their job or their situation in life, so many times it's not a decision about what's right and wrong, ability or inability, can or can't, permitted or not permitted. It simply boils down to these people having to make a choice between what's smart and not smart. It's when we choose to self-limit based on the factors of smart and safe, wise. When we make those kind of choices and we self-limit, that self-imposed restriction actually ends up feeling like a freedom. It's not that my dad doesn't have the freedom to go fishing, but he has the wisdom to choose not to. And Paul Harvey used to say that self-government only works with self-discipline. If I have the autonomy to choose, and I have the autonomy to choose not to, then my autonomy, my self-government only works with my self-discipline. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.